Dimensions of transition. Navigating spiritual thresholds in the quantum journey of consciousness, transitions are not merely the space between states, but unique dimensional experiences themselves. Like fractal dimensions that exist between whole numbers, these transitional states have their own qualities, challenges, and wisdom to impart. Understanding the nature of transitions transforms our spiritual journey from cycles of repetition to genuine elevation. This isn't abstract theory, but practical wisdom for anyone seeking to evolve beyond familiar patterns into new realms of awareness and possibility. Chapter 1. The nature of transitional dimensions. The experience of transition reaches back and forth in time, redefining the past and elevating the future. Unlike linear progression, these transitional states create a multidimensional awareness where we simultaneously extract lessons from past experiences while opening new probability fields for our future. To be in transition is to experience multiple dimensions in present awareness. This fractional dimension requires intention and conscious attention to navigate successfully. It is neither the state we're leaving nor the state we're entering, but a unique dimensional experience that bridges multiple realities. In these transitional spaces, we gain the ability to recontextualize our past. Events that once seemed random or painful reveal their purpose as stepping stones on our path. Simultaneously, we begin resonating with new probability fields that were previously inaccessible to us. Chapter 2. The challenge of transition. It is in the experience of transition that resistance is most powerful. Like the increased energy required at phase transition points in physics, shifting consciousness demands greater spiritual energy than maintaining established states. During transitions, the temptation to surrender to and justify the familiar reaches its height. Our minds create compelling narratives about why we should return to known patterns, even when those patterns no longer serve our highest good. This resistance manifests in many forms. 1. Sudden doubts about the new direction. 2. Unexpected challenges that test our resolve. 3. Emotional turbulence as old patterns fight to survive. 4. Convincing justifications for returning to familiar territory. Without understanding the nature of transitional resistance, many people approach thresholds repeatedly without crossing them. This results in the experience of cycles rather than true elevation. Chapter 3. Successful navigation of thresholds. Successful transition results in elevation and new probabilities. Rather than returning to familiar cycles, we establish stable access to higher states of awareness and new fields of possibility. This successful navigation requires specific approaches. First, we must maintain sufficient energy throughout the transition process. Like a rocket needs more fuel at liftoff than in orbit, transitions demand heightened spiritual resources. Prayer, meditation, community support, and conscious rest become essential during these periods. Second, we need conscious disidentification from our current state. While in transition, we must hold both who we have been and who we are becoming without fully identifying with either. This requires developing witness consciousness, the ability to observe our patterns without becoming entangled in them. Third, we must recognize and interrupt familiar patterns when they arise. Transitions often trigger automatic responses designed to return us to familiar territory. By consciously interrupting these patterns, we create space for new responses to emerge. Chapter 4. Critical thresholds in spiritual growth. Throughout our spiritual journey, we encounter critical thresholds that require complete crossing rather than partial approach. These thresholds represent quantum opportunities for consciousness evolution. Each threshold presents unique challenges and requires specific awareness. The threshold of identity requires releasing how we've defined ourselves to embrace a more expansive self-understanding. This often creates an identity crisis that, when fully navigated, results in a more authentic alignment with our true nature. The threshold of relational patterns challenges how we connect with others. As our consciousness evolves, relationships that were based on old patterns may need to transform or complete. Successfully crossing this threshold leads to more authentic and aligned connections. The threshold of purpose often emerges when familiar goals no longer motivate us. This liminal space between purposes can feel like meaninglessness, but when fully traversed, reveals deeper calling aligned with our evolved consciousness. The threshold of perception fundamentally changes how we experience reality. Our sensory apparatus and cognitive frameworks actually shift, allowing us to perceive dimensions of experience previously invisible to us. Chapter 5. Building bridges across transitions. Successful transitions require bridging narratives that honor where we've been while embracing where we're going. These narratives provide continuity of meaning through transformation. Rather than rejecting our past, we reframe it as perfect preparation for our emerging state. This creates integrative growth rather than compartmentalized change. Construction of these bridges includes 1. Finding threads of continuity between past and emerging states. 2. Developing language for the transitional process itself. 3. Creating meaningful rituals to mark threshold crossings. 4. Establishing new support structures for emerging consciousness. Remember that quantum jumps in consciousness rarely follow linear paths. They involve what might appear as regression before progression, confusion before clarity, and disorientation before integration. Conclusion. The dimensions of transition represent some of the most potent opportunities for spiritual growth. By understanding these unique states as valid dimensions of experience rather than merely spaces between states, we transform our approach to evolution itself. Each successful transition elevates not just our individual consciousness, but expands the probability field for collective evolution. As we learn to navigate these thresholds with awareness and intention, we contribute to the elevation of all consciousness. Remember, when you find yourself in transitional dimensions, you're not lost or failing. You're in one of the most sacred and powerful spaces of transformation. With presence, patience, and proper navigation, these fractional dimensions become launching pads for quantum evolution. Throughout every transition, the key remains being immediately present and aware of the Most High. This divine connection provides both the anchor and the guidance needed to successfully navigate these dimensional shifts. When resistance peaks and familiar patterns call, return to immediate presence and alignment with divine love. If this message about dimensions of transition resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might benefit from this understanding. Stay immediately present, move in divine love, and remember that even in transition, the Most High remains your constant guide and strength. Together, we can transform cycles into elevation and familiar patterns into new possibilities.